All right, here we go. Living now, living right now. This is L.Nathan Hare, your host here for this next hour at WFO Power 96.5 FM on your dial. Our principal sponsor, of course, is the Community Action Organization of Western New York, still fighting the war on poverty, now in our 52nd year. I want to welcome all of you again to this hour of insight, introspection, and interpretation of facts, events, and trends affecting you right here and right now in Buffalo and the Western New York community, and in fact, connecting to communities all across the country. Each week we focus on things we think will be of interest to you, which will serve to motivate you and serve to connect you to the broader issues that affect our communities here in Western New York. Now, today's program is live, so you can call in. You can join our discussion. I hope that you will. Our number here again is 837-1112. That's 837-1112. So we have a special guest for the first segment of the program. We're going to be talking about housing. We have Robin Young, who's the director of the CAO's Housing Division. And we're going to talk about two programs. I think we're talking about the Restore program, and we're talking about the Home Improvement Resource program.
Absolutely.
Right? And then we're going to kind of shift gears, and we're going to talk about what I'm going to refer to as black boys in a poverty trap. And I'll explain that when we get to the second segment of the program, so don't go away. But on the housing piece, we do a lot of things in housing, Robin. We have a 63-unit apartment complex that we built. We have our Home Improvement Resource program we're going to talk about today. We have our Restore program to help senior citizens. We'll talk about that today. You're almost done now with a program that we have through the Affordable Housing Corporation. We a $700,000 program to put money into homes. Big money. You could put $20,000-$30,000 into a home with that program.
Absolutely.
Now, it was mostly for safety type stuff. You couldn't just repaint your house chartreuse or something, right?
No, it was based for health, safety, and code violations to help homeowners in that district make those repairs.
Right, but a lot of things got into that safety equation.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely. It could end up being painting, siding, new roof,
right.
Porches. So we did a lot of work under that program.
Now, I talk about this piece because sometimes we wait so long to take advantage of something that we miss our window, right?
True.
We got the grant, that $700,000 grant, we got the notice on that, I think it was December 16th of 2016. And so we started recruiting then.
Right.
So now we're at the end. We already got the homes, and we're, I think, about 4 or 5 houses from being completely done in terms of the renovations on those houses. And we're in the process of applying for another grant.
Absolutely.
Well, actually, I'm sorry.
We did.
We have applied for another grant, and we're just waiting on getting an answer.
Yes, we're waiting for the state to respond and let us know if it's been approved.
And so it makes sense that if you have a home where there's a senior citizen in the home.
Well, that's
but that's a different program, right?
That's a different program.
For the home improvement program through the Affordable Housing Corporation, if you're a homeowner and you're in the targeted district that you have for that program, right? I know you kind of expanded your boundaries for that program. It used to be the Maston Park Planning District.
Well, yeah, our original application is for Maston Park, but we did open it up towards the end to other homeowners. But that's the one we're kind of finishing up now, so we're waiting on word for the second.
And so the second phase is just going to be an expanded, it'll be a city program though, right?
Oh, it's for the city of Buffalo.
Right.
It's the target area. I want to get into that too much. So
The only reason I'm bringing that up is if you are a homeowner, and is there an income criteria on that? Is it that average monthly income thing?
Well, yeah, there are income guidelines for the program. So first thing we want to find out from a person is they own the house. Any other, make sure who the owners are, taxes, water bill, user fees are paid, and they have homeowners insurance.
Right.
And then if they have any housing code violations, and if not, then we talk about other things that might be going on in the house that are health and safety issues. So until we really find out if we have funding for next year, we can take calls.
And that's what I'm saying. You need to start lining up now, okay? You need to be doing everything you possibly can to get yourself on the list because, it's like the early bird, right?
Oh, it's definitely a first come, first serve.
Right. So start getting yourself on the list now so when we get the notice that we can go forward, You know, we got 40, 60, 80 homes already on the list.
Right.
Get those done. Because we're working with the state likes programs that get done early.
Mm-hmm.
So if we get the homes identified within the first 3 or 4 months of the program year,
Mm-hmm.
and then we get the homes completed by the 8th to the, say, 12th month of the program year,
Right.
then you know for certain the state's going to come back and reinvest in that program again.
Right.
So that's really what we want to try to get done. So right now, I've taken up 10 minutes just talking about this.
It's okay.
Right?
It's okay.
I want to talk about the Home Improvement Resource Program and you have a meeting coming up pretty soon, right?
Yes, we have scheduled April 11th at the Delavan Grider Center. We typically have them at our 564 Dodge Street Building 400 office, but we're trying to, go out into the community, make it a little bit easier for people to come out. So we're going to have the meeting there on April 11th. It's from 6 to 8 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
You can call and register at 881-6543. Again, it's 881-6543. Delavan Grider is 877 East Delavan.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's from 6 to 8 p.m. And that's where we're going to talk about our linkage with NYSERDA and how we can possibly get you into either Empower or the Assisted Home Performance Program.
So let's talk about those programs, because there's grant programs, which means free.
Free.
Just to get the chasing, right?
Right.
And then there's a program that's 50-50 free, and you have to put other dollars up, to match that 50-50 program.
And there's no income guidelines for that program, so that's a good thing about it. So it doesn't matter how much you make. For the Empower program, yes, you have to be HEAP eligible. So those are kind of the guidelines we use for that program. And it's open to the Empower program is open to homeowners and renters. Of course, the renter has to get consent from the homeowner
Right.
to do any type of modifications. But it's a great program, and it can help significantly lower your energy costs. And that's what we're ultimately trying to do.
And so, just so we're clear, the reason why we're focusing on both tenants and homeowners is, at least in my experience in Buffalo, over the past 30 years, we've migrated to a point where almost all of the homes that are being rented to somebody, the rent does not include the utilities. So you have to pay the utilities on top of the rent. And that's significant. I mean, it's hard to get a home that's for less than $700 in a month, and then you got to pay utilities on top
on an
of that,
older
right?
house that probably has not had any work done on it in years. So you're talking about it's not well insulated. The windows are older. The furnace may not be energy efficient either.
Right.
So you're looking at paying these higher costs just because the house isn't up to the standards it should be.
Right.
So yeah.
Right. I mean, Buffalo, just so you all know, if you didn't know it from your eyesight, Buffalo is one of the oldest housing stock
Absolutely.
in the history of the entire country and what. I don't think there's any place. Somebody told me last week that Buffalo was the second oldest housing stock in the United States. But given how big the United States is, being number two, that's not a good situation for you to be in, right?
No.
And so the only way that you can combat this is you have to be able to make investments in homes that essentially make the homes newer.
Right.
And that has to come from somebody. So people that have means, who own homes that they don't live in, the world expects you to be the one to make the investment in your house. You own the house, you're
Exactly.
making money out of the house by renting the house. The world expects you to invest in the house.
As you should.
But unfortunately, there is an adverse momentum against that, which is if you make more investments in your house, then your home's value goes up, and you end up having to pay higher property taxes. And so it's perverse, in the sense that you want people to invest in their homes, but then you punish them because if you invest in your home, I'm going to increase your cost of operating the homes. And so then people shift the cost of operating the home onto the tenants, and then they keep raising the rents. So first they shifted the cost of the electric bill and the gas bill onto the tenants, and I'm hoping they're not shifting the water bill on the tenants too.
Oh, they absolutely are.
They're doing that too?
Yes, they are.
Because water bills come quarterly, right?
Yes, they do. And a lot of landlords are making it the response. And the user fee as well. So that's happening too in Buffalo.
Wow, that's the garbage user fee.
Yes, so a lot of tenants are responsible for that as well.
The garbage user fee for the garbage they used to pick up for free
Yeah, long time ago.
Oh, okay. I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Okay.
They used to be covered with your taxes, right?
It did.
That thing they call city property taxes.
Yes, it did.
They used to cover, garbage pickups, right?
It did, yes.
And now they just cover the mail that sends the bill to you to pay for your garbage pickup.
Yes.
Okay, that's another issue. We won't talk about
yes.
that right now, right?
No.
But the point is that you have a lot of cost that are visited on tenants.
Yes, absolutely.
And so if we can find ways to help you lower that gas bill and your electric bill, so that particularly during the months when your lights are on all the time, when it's dark, and when your heating bill is high, especially when you get in November until say roughly April. May,
could be May, yeah.
right? So that could be a good 6 months out of the year. You could be facing bills that run from $275, $300 worth of, for gas in a month. I've seen people with bills of $450, $475 for gas. In January when the average temperature is like 14 below zero. Not quite that bad, but
it gets very expensive. And the lower your income is, and you're spending more money on utilities, you're likely to spend less on the things that you actually need in your home, like quality food.
Right. So, you should apply for heat if you're eligible.
Absolutely.
For heat. Apply for that as early as the eligibility occurs. If they say you can apply in October and it's still warm, apply in October anyway.
Get what you can,
right?
absolutely, yeah.
But what we're talking about is using the Empower New York and the Assisted Home Performance Program to make structural improvements in your home that will continue to give you benefit of lowering the cost of heating your home because you made your home more energy efficient. Right? So, but it's individualized, right? We need to have assessments done on people's homes. Talk a little bit about that process.
Everybody that applies for it is eligible for a free energy audit. Doesn't necessarily mean that everybody that applies is going to need the same amount of work done in their home as someone else. It might be less and more depending on the home. And that's why the free energy audit is so essential to finding out what's going on in your home and letting you know what measures you can do to reduce your energy costs.
So the process basically is you do an application with us.
Right.
We walk you through all of the steps. We make sure we help you understand which program works the best for you, whether it's Empower New York or whether it's the Assisted Home Performance Program. Empower is income limited, right? It is. And the Assisted Home Performance Program is not income based.
Nope.
And so you first figure out what is most appropriate for you and your circumstance. Make sure that you can get your landlord to go along with whatever work needs to be done. Because you can't fix somebody's house unless they say it's okay to fix their house. Then you have to get a scope of work done, which means somebody has to do an energy assessment on your home, right? And then once that's done, and we have a sort of a game plan, here are all of the places where you're losing, heat, or your costs are much higher than they need to be. Here are things that we can do to reduce those costs and reduce that loss of heat for your home. Then a scope of work is done. That's sent to NYSERDA, right?
Absolutely.
And then they approve that scope of work and
make the determination as to how much of a subsidy you're going to get.
Right. Now, it's not unlimited. You're not going to get $100,000 worth of work done in this program. So if it's the grant program, the 100% grant program, Empower, how much money do you typically would be the?
I don't have that answer, Mr. Hare, so I'm not going to say that. It just depends on the person's, on the situation of the home. So,
but it's several thousand up to that. It's not going to be like 10,000.
No. It's not going to be that much. No,
right.
It's not. Of course, you're going to get more from the assisted
home performance. How fast you ran away for that 10?
Well, too high.
Just because I've never seen that happen, so no. But in assisted home performance, it's much more substantial because you're putting in money into it yourself. So.
And the reason for that is, in order for the state to spread the money out, you can't tie up a whole lot of money on, putting a new roof on a house or putting a new foundation around a house.
That's not going to happen.
Right. You can't use that kind of money to do that. Now, with the Assisted Home Performance Program, depending on how much money you want to put up, you may have a cap on how much grant money you can get.
Right.
but you can put on as much work as you want to put on your house. So
if you're willing to pay for it.
right.
Absolutely.
So if you needed $30,000 worth of work done on your house, and you could get $4,000 of that through the grant program, through the Assisted Home Performance Program, that's still $4,000 in free money, that
Right.
you're going to get,
exactly,
right?
yeah.
So you just do whatever you can. It's 50-50. So if you get $4,000 in grant money, you have to put up $4,000 of your own money, with it, right?
They balance it out, and it does. They have their own percentages. So I think from what I understand, the most is up to like $4,000 or $5,000
Right.
in subsidy money. Yeah.
But still, for a Assisted Home Performance Program, if you get $4,000 or $5,000 in grant money, and you put up $4,000 or $5,000 of your own money, that's a 50% return on your investment. That's like you put up $1 and you get 50 cents back from that investment. How many investments pay you a guaranteed 50% return?
Right. And it's not as though you have to have the money up front either.
Right.
There's a couple of different mechanisms they use for you to, if you want to pay it all up front, fine. But then they have a program also where they can attach it to your utility bill, to your Niagara Mohawk bill, which works out to be about $45, $50 a month. So that's,
And the other thing I didn't mention is if you take out the Assisted Home Performance Program, you get the grant money, which it's sort of grant and loan money, right? And the loan is through the utility? Is that how that works?
Right. So if your portion of it you want to have, you can't pay up front.
Right.
You can you can put it on your utility bill, your Niagara Mohawk, National Grid.
National Grid,
Ooh,
right.
sorry, National Grid now. So that portion that you were going to pay, you pay monthly on that bill.
National Grid or National, what is it?
National Grid.
And what's the gas company?
This is National Fuel.
National Fuel, right?
But not it's on your National Grid bill.
Right. So on your National Grid bill, you could get a loan through the utility.
Right.
Right, to match the grant money
Absolutely.
that you get. Here's the sweet part about that. If you, for whatever reason, had to leave your home, the loan stays with the home. It doesn't go with you, right?
Absolutely, it stays with the home.
So that's kind of a good deal. And the reason why the loan stays with the home is because the energy savings stay with the home. It wouldn't make sense for you to leave the house and go to Texas and a bill for Buffalo, New York is still following you to Texas. That wouldn't make any sense. So it's really designed in a way that makes it very consumer friendly.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. It's
So-
a great program.
That's as sweet as it gets. Now, with the Home Improvement Resource Program, we've been trying to work that program with a number of strategies. We have sort of an energy efficiency zone that we had established over in that Broadway, Herman, Best, and Fillmore, in that area. And then we also have a program focusing on, we have a safety program focusing on homes that have a senior citizen.
That's our Restore program, yes. So those are the two districts we're working in, part of Ellicott and part of Fillmore. So yes, so that program is just starting up. Senior citizens, 60 and over, you own the home, taxes, water bill, user fee, and you have to have homeowners insurance. So that's more of a faster, it's an emergency more situation. So if you have a sewer backup, your furnace isn't working, so you need to call right now and see if you can get getting that taken care of. So we're taking applications for that program right now at 564 Dodge Street, building number 400. Again, you would call first so we can do an interview over the phone to see, just to qualify you, ask you some questions, see if you're actually eligible for the program. So that's at 881-6543. And you can ask for Robin Young or Salisa Watson.
So basically, we have a program, the Restore program, that's really focusing on homes where there's a senior citizen in the home.
Senior citizen homeowner.
Or it has to be the senior, that senior citizen has to be the homeowner.
Yes.
Okay. So in that program, that's again free money, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So you have to meet an income requirement for that program?
There are income guidelines for that program as well. We discussed that when we do the intake over the phone. And there's a situation where the homeowner, because it's a senior citizen program, if the senior citizen can't come to our office, we will make arrangements to come to their home as well.
So if you have somebody, if you're not the senior citizen, but you have somebody in your family who is a senior citizen who owns their home,
Correct.
Don't worry about the income stuff. Let Robin's team figure that stuff out for you, okay? You need to call right away because there's free money out here. And that free money is really designed for the Restore program, designed for safety improvements in a home. So water dripping someplace is a safety issue. Banisters, that are unsecured, that are almost falling apart, that's a safety issue, right? Broken windows, safety issue. Stairs that aren't, correct, that's a safety. There's a whole range of things, right, that you probably need to have done at a time in your life when you're probably not getting new money. You're living off of your old money.
Absolutely.
If we can take some public money to help you lower your costs,
take it. Please
you got to take that right
take
then
the
and
money.
there, right? So you want to hop on that right now. That program, you don't have to wait until the April 11th meeting. You can
just
call you right now, and they call the 881-6543 number, or they can come and visit you on Dodge Street.
564 Dodge Street in building number 400.
All right. Listen, we got to take care of our sponsors. So if you all stick with us, we will see you on the side of the break here at Living right now. All right, yep. All right, welcome back to Living Now here at WFO, Power 96.5 FM on your dial. Again, we're talking about, we've been talking about a energy initiative that we've been working on with our housing program to help people to lower the cost of operating their homes. One of the things that was asked off the air was the issue of green energy and how that can be used to subsidize or how you subsidize green energy to help you lower the cost of energy consumption in your home. And that gets into things like putting solar panels, on your house. And in fact, you can call the state and you can call Solar City, places like that, and get information about grant programs that would help you to be able to put solar panels on the roof of your home. Other kinds of green energy would be, having ways where you can collect rainwater and snow melt off and stuff like that, to have that go into a large cistern on the outside of your house, and then you can use that, not for drinking now. Don't drink that water. Let me say that again now. Just because it fell from the sky doesn't mean you can drink it. Don't drink that water, okay? But you can use that water to wash your car. You can use that water to wash your house. You can use that water to water your lawns, to clean your driveways, things like that. And so that saves you on your water bill. There are other kinds of green energy strategies that you can use. And so I can't talk about all of those things right now. But if you call Robin at 881-6543, that's 881-6543, come to our public meeting on April 11th. Get as many people there as we can so we can get you as much information as possible. We can start to grow this movement. I want to talk on the rest of this hour about a situation that I think that we have to get our arms around. Lee, I think we've talked about this, a few times. The fact that the way that things set up in the United States, if you are a black boy, despite the fact that there are so-called affirmative action and all these different kind of programs that exist out here, the one population group that does not seem to be getting any of the benefit of all of these initiatives is young African boys. Here, this is an article written by Emily Badger, Claire Kane Miller, and Kevin Quealy. It was written for the New York Times on March 19th, and it says that black male children in wealthy families actually have only a 50-50 chance of, or actually have a 50-50 chance of ending up in the poorest 20% of people in this country. Just to put this into context for you, if you're in the top 20% income, if a Caucasian in the top 20% of income in the United States, the odds are 5 to 1 that when you turn into an adult, when you're 30 years old, you will still be in the top 20% or higher. But if you're an African boy, a black boy, and you're in a family that's in the top 20% income earners in this society, the odds are only 50-50 that you will still be in the top 20%. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. This is serious, right? And so, but the interesting thing is that's not true for black girls. Yeah, wrap your mind around that. So if you're a black girl and you're in a family that's in the top 20% of income earners in the United States, that black girl is 5 times more likely to stay in the top 20% or higher, right, when she becomes an adult. But for the black boy, the odds are only 50-50. Not only that he won't be in the top 20%, the odds are 50-50 that he will be in the bottom 20%. Just completely, so we have to take a look at this. There's got to be a reason for this, right? In fact, one of the things that this article talked about is that when you look at the income inequality between blacks and whites in this society, it is driven entirely by the income disparity between black boys and white adults. In other words, black girls who benefit from all of the various initiatives, the mentoring, affirmative action, grant programs, et cetera, they move into the higher echelons of income earners in the society. They keep their gains. Their children keep their gains. Their children wind up still being in the top 20% or higher. But black boys, even if they're Kobe Bryant, they're Magic Johnson, they're top income earners. They're I was going to say DMX, but I think something bad happened to DMX. But my point is that for a black boy who's in the top 20% income earners, the odds are only 50-50, not just that he won't stay in the top 20%, in other words, fall back into, the top 40%. It's not like that. For the black boy, the odds are 50-50 that he will fall from the top 20% to the bottom 20%. So we need to wrap our arms around that because something is wrong. And I'm suggesting to us that black male youth are targeted in this society. And if they're not, let me say it this way, because that puts more intentionality on it when I say targeted. So sometimes you can be targeted by something because it's just the way something works. It just falls more on you than it falls on other people. So, I would say it better this way. If black boys are not specifically targeted, the way things work in this society, the people who are most severely impacted by the way things work tend to be black boys. So, for example, police. If you're a police officer, how do you get the notoriety that allows you to be able to get merit pay, for you to get promotions, that sort of stuff? It's from policing, right? So how does this society measure policing? Arrests, convictions, length of time kept off the street. Well, think about it. I mean, this might be making this up. Yeah. Do your own thinking about it, right? I'm here with Emmanuel Radford, by the way, who's doing the live streaming of our program. But you just think about that. You're a young man. You go through this right now, right? My age, they don't bother me anymore. You got to worry about him, right? But at your age, they worry about you, right? And so what I'm saying is that the policing in the society, when they're doing what they think they have to do in order for them to grow in their careers, to get more than just whatever the union, wage increases are, to get further along in their career, they have to have evidence that they're doing something that is policing. That's evidence that you're doing tough policing. Arrests are one of the ways that you do that. Arrests that turn into convictions means the initial arrests were good arrests, right? And then convictions that turn into sentences, mean that the crime that you ultimately got convicted of, the arrest led to you being convicted of something significant and you doing some time, right? And so that's how do you do that in a society? Do you go someplace in Arizona where there's like one person every 476 square miles?
No.
Because you could be out there all year long and not even meet a person, let alone arrest a person. Of course not. You're going to go to the Fishbowl, right? You're going to go to Bissell and Ferry Street. You're going to go to Leroy and Manhattan, right? You're going to go to, Jefferson and William. You're going to go to places where there's an awful lot of people on foot that are moving around all the time. Why? Because if I'm a person who's interested in trying to market my illegal products, I'm not going to go to Arizona for one person every 466 square miles. I'm not going there. I'm going to go to places where there are people so I can market my stuff to people. So if I'm a police person, I'm just going to kind of slink around and, make myself less visible, see who's who, right? Then that's how I do my policing. Whereas if I live in a suburban neighborhood where there may only be 7, 8, 10 houses on a block, maybe fewer than that, on a block, and there's not, you got to drive 2 miles to get to a delicatessen, right? You don't find people huddled together, in those large numbers, right? So you're not going to get a lot of numbers from policing the areas, around their delicatessens and so on. And of course, you're not going to be doing that excuse me, you're not going to be doing that policing at a supermarket. I mean, you got to know that Wegmans ain't going to put up with that, right? You can't be driving my customers away or whatnot. So they tend to police in these areas where there are these delicatessens, where there's these, sort of aggregation of a lot of people, moving in a small area. So that tends to favor policing in African communities because African communities tend to be in the densest parts of cities. Mm-hmm. You don't see that many African communities in the suburban communities, right? When you see African people in suburban communities, they're spread out just like, Caucasian people are spread out. But when you look in the urban communities, you see a lot of young African people that are connecting with each other on the street. And so that becomes a fishbowl, right? And so that's where they do the policing. So I'm saying that the way the system works, it doesn't matter whether they do it on purpose or not. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm not even arguing the issue that they do this deliberately to catch African people as opposed to other people, committing crimes. That's not my point. My point is that when they did the study on stop and frisk, they found that Caucasian people were just as likely, if not more likely, to have contraband on them than African people were. But they stopped 5 times as many African people as they stopped Caucasian people, even though there was as many, excuse me, as many Caucasian people out there in that area in New York as there were African people. But they stopped African people 5 times more often. As a consequence, they caught more African people, right? So the percentage of Caucasian people that had contraband on them was the same, but the number of people that you stopped were so high in the African community as opposed to the Caucasian community, you wound up catching many more African people with contraband. You got
Yeah. So even though, I mean, the point you're making is that it's not targeting you. That's not the point. Is that they're not targeting you. It's just it's kind of like.
Let me say it like the way your father would say it. It's they might not be targeting you. They could be targeting you. I'm not taking that off the table, right? They could be doing this deliberately. I'm simply saying that that's not the argument that I'm making right now. I'm not arguing that it's being done deliberately. But, as I told you years ago, too many accidents means somebody's telling you a lie.
So the question is it avoidable for the African American community?
So,
and if so, how?
I love that. I love that question because, to me, the best strategy is to get yourself out of the way. If you know that this is a fishbowl, this corner is a fishbowl, this delicatessen, this supermarket, or this gas station, or this barbershop, or whatever it is, wherever these gathering places are, this little parking lot, everybody comes and sits around, on the barriers in the parking lot, right?
Yep.
And they commiserate with each other, and they're all carrying, and so on, right? You're putting yourself in the fishbowl. I'm saying to you, you have to stop posting up in the fishbowl. If you're not in the fishbowl, then you don't get caught on the hook. Does that make sense? Secondarily, you have to make a decision in your life that your future is shaped by the decisions that you make today. They're going to be your future tomorrow. You have to make a decision that you're going to do things to prejudice your future in a way where you're going to be economically secure without having to depend on contraband. Y'all know what I mean by contraband, right? Without having to depend on that, you have to put yourself in the best possible position that you can. So instead of spending your time not going to school, going to school to find somebody to hook up with to do something wrong, and that sort of stuff, trying to find ways to possess territories like you're some kind of junior Al-Qaeda or something, right? So instead of doing stuff like that, you need to figure out, if I'm not good in school, what am I good enough at that I can learn it well enough that I can get certified in that area so I can go to some place and get me a job. Don't wait for the job to come to you. Nobody says just because you were born that we got a job that's coming to you that looks like what you do. If you turn yourself into a welder and they don't do welding in your community, go someplace where they do welding, right? Don't spend your time hooking up with people that require you having to be around them. See, gangs need you to be around them. Right? If you're not around them, it ain't a gang, right? See, so if I'm doing welding and the welding's being done in Baltimore and I live in Buffalo, but I got a welding certificate and they're hiring people at $60 an hour in Baltimore, guess where I'm moving?
Baltimore.
Tonight. Okay, I'm on my way to Baltimore tonight. I'll tell my family when I get there, here's where I'm at. But I'm going where I can make my money. I'm not going to be posting up in your neighborhood so I can hang around you with tattoos and inside-out shirts and, upside-down hats and, all kind of craziness. I'm not spending my time doing that because that's not where my future is. My future is transforming myself into somebody who is able to earn a living for myself based on the certification that I have acquired for myself. So I got to spend my time doing that. Black boys have to get this figured out. You got to stop giving in to the nonsense. Trying to post up to be, machismo, trying to post up to be the owner of a corner or owner of a neighborhood, with your little, gang associations and whatnot. There's no upside for you in that. There's only downside, no upside. Going down the road that you're going, you place yourself in the fishbowl. If you place yourself in the fishbowl, who's doing the fishing? The police. And why are they fishing for you? Because it gives them credentials that allows them to be able to get higher pay. They make money doing the fishing of you. Get yourself out of the way. There's no other way out of it, right? You can't just go someplace and be in the midst of crime and then complain because people come and police you where you're committing the crime or where the crimes are being committed. And then you end up getting caught up in somebody else's crime.
She wasn't.
You're not even in the crime stuff. You're just there because you're trying to be a part of the network of the neighborhood and whatnot. You can't put yourself in that position. You gotta get yourself out. So I know that we're probably close to our so why don't we do that before I finish up my point? Let's take our last break. So if you all stick with us, we will see you inside of the break here at Living right now. UFO 96.5 FM on your dial. We're talking about what to me is a crisis situation. The fact that we have documentation that demonstrates that African boys, even if they succeed, if their families succeed in getting them out of poverty and getting them all the way up into the top 20% or more earners in this society, the children of those families, the African male children, tend to be 50-50 as likelihood to end up poor as they are likely to be able to end up in the top 20% income earners in this society. That is an incredible reality that has been uncovered. And they talk about the idea that, excuse me, they talk about the idea that test scores don't accurately measure the abilities of black children in the first place, and that this idea that there are inherent differences between the races in terms of their intellectual ability, they talk about things that to me don't have anything to do with what the reality is. The fact that you don't do as well on national educational assessment test and so on has nothing to do with what we're talking about. What we're talking about is people that have the same circumstances. They live in households that have the same income, where the parents in the households have the same kinds of degrees, the same kind of certifications, and so on, go to the same kinds of churches, that sort of stuff. And in spite of that, the African male children, not the African female children, the African male children are as likely to end up poor by the time they're 30 years old as they are likely to stay in the top 20% earners in this society. That's what we're talking about. Something is going on here that does not work. I believe because you don't see this with African females. With African females, if mom and dad are, say, $200,000 a year earners, the female child they have, it's likely when she gets to be 30 years old that she's going to be somebody who's going to be in that $200,000 range or $150,000 range of income. She's going to be in the top 20% of earners in this society. But that's not true for African boys. Something has to be going on here that's creating this. I believe it has to be recognized that black women have benefited significantly from the national and global movement towards women's equality. Mm-hmm. I mean, let's call things like what they are. Men are portrayed in our society as perpetrators. Women are portrayed in our society, and men are portrayed as in this society as beneficiaries of male entitlement. Women, on the other hand, right? Because men, let's be honest, men think they're supposed to be the boss, right? They're supposed to be the leaders, et cetera, et cetera. So there is a male, entitlement program that exists in this society. We got to call that what it is, right? But it's not really, even though African men supposedly have that same entitlement, that doesn't work out in living reality for African men. In fact, African men think they're supposed to be entitled, and then they don't get the entitlement. African men have to do some rethinking. How we teach our boys, we have to rethink, that, right? Women, on the other hand, are portrayed as victims of male predation. Predation is preying on people. Women are depicted in society as people who are victims of males preying on them, males trying to dominate them, males trying to take advantage of them, males benefiting from male entitlement. The social movement in the society has been towards, has been towards encouraging and supporting women in preparing for and accessing opportunity. Teachers and policymakers, through their language and sense of righting historical wrongs, largely committed by white men and supported by white women, let's be honest, right? White women have supported white men in their male entitlement, affirmatively promote women's achievement. When I say white, understand what I mean by that. If you look at this whole Donald Trump thing, right? Here's a guy with the Access Hollywood thing, confessing that, he just, jumps on women like when he just feels like it. He just sees a woman he likes, he throws his tongue, down her mouth and grabs her between her legs and that sort of stuff. And yet, the majority of Caucasian women in this country in November of 2016 voted for him. Now, not the majority of women, because black women and Hispanic women in humongous, majorities voted against Donald Trump. So that meant that women as a whole didn't vote for Donald Trump, but Caucasian women did. So that tells you that Caucasian women seem to have gone along and to continue to go along with this idea of male entitlement, of men having a certain role, that they get to play, that just is endowed, on them. You just get this. This is your role, right? Black males who have the least role in undermining women's achievement are the most left out in these social movements to correct historical wrongs. You don't hear people in classes, talking about, oh, black male, you can do great, you can do much better, you can be this, you can be that, let me wrap some services and mentoring and cloaking, around you. It's only exceptional stuff that black males get that mentoring stuff. Black females, who's doing the messaging in the schools? White females. 80+% of all of the teachers in the United States in elementary and secondary education are white females. They see themselves as now being the agents to overcome all of the history of women's oppression that has existed in this society. So they're the ones who are teaching and signaling, encouraging and supporting female empowerment in this society. Black women end up benefiting from joining the sisterhood of womanhood, okay? Black men don't get anything because the brotherhood of Caucasian malehood doesn't want the brotherhood of African males. But the sisterhood of African females, the sisterhood of Caucasian females, they like the sisterhood of black females. So they bring the sisterhood of black females into the queue with them. They become a part of the movement to help them. Who's a part of the movement to help African men? Nobody. African men aren't even in the movement to help African men, right? I'm just trying to make it clear, okay? So American male-oriented society is built on the premise that men will find their own way forward. That's the American machismo. So it's on the man to find his way to his future. But it's on society to help the woman find her way to her future. That's a big difference, right?
Huge.
The record shows that police focus on raising revenues and building award-winning careers by over-policing black males and under-policing every other population group in the society. More than 80% of school teachers are white women who clearly use their structural position to promote the wider achievement of women as a group, which benefits black women as well. Courts sentence black men much more severely than they do whites for the identical offenses. Forcing all black men to live under the deliberately directed oppression of this deliberately directed oppression limits black men's interaction with people that might help them connect to employment or business opportunity, or simply to be their sounding boards in making life-shaping decisions. In other words, if I keep you in a box and you keep yourself in the box, let's be clear about that. You keep yourself in the box, then who is it that you're getting quality information from? Who's telling you what you can do to shape your life, to turn your life in the path that you want ultimately your life to be in? Other people that's tattooed up, that got turned out, undershirts, on, and, got, the right color hat, and hanging out, at your parking lot, in front of your store, and so on. Is that where you're getting your information from? If that's where you're getting your information from, you're probably getting distorted information that's not going to take you where you want to go. It's going to leave you on the path that you're on right now. You're going to spend your life in the fishbowl, and in the fishbowl, the odds are real high. Sooner or later, you're going to get caught on one of those hooks, and you're going to find yourself in front of a court, being sentenced, being adjudicated, and so on. And your life is going to be distorted forever because you never get done paying a sentence in the United States.
No.
Once you've been convicted of something, in fact, being arrested for something, you may never be able to do that. We have a caller hanging on. Let me grab that call before we get done with this hour. Hi, caller, are you there?
Yeah, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing? Okay. Right. So your question is, why haven't African men been able to overcome what Caucasian men have done to African men? Is that your question? So I'm not sure I have a single omnibus answer for that. What I can say is that African people on the continent of Africa reacted to European people, the Portuguese, the Spanish, and so on. They reacted as individual states when they were being attacked by an entire continent of people. When they act as a group and you act as an individual, you are likely going to lose in that battle. King Alfonso of Angola gave away the only seaport, deep water seaport that Angola had to the Portuguese, in return for the Portuguese parading him around, the streets of Paris and whatnot as being a fellow king. He thought he was a part of the show. And when he got home, they already had locked up his borders and whatnot. So that's a part of the story. The other part of the story is that when African people were pulled off of the continent of Africa and taken to Hispaniola, taken to South America, taken to North America, they were divided up. They weren't allowed to stay as a group. In other words, the people from Matamba didn't stay together. The people from Angola didn't stay together. The Gula people didn't stay together. They broke them up, and so that they weren't able to talk to each other. People in different language groups were all mixed together, and so it was difficult for them to be able to reorganize themselves as a sort of a expatriate, community of people, because they were not together. They were not united as a community of people. The people that lived in, or that came from Angola, treated the people that lived in Benin as if they were also their enemies. So they didn't comprehend that there was an entire continent of people that was attacking them as a whole, and they're reacting as individual people, so they didn't have unity. Without unity, there was no strength. And so that is how, that's the core nature of what went on here. Does that make sense? Yep. So, so now we have the same situation. We've been sort of acculturated into thinking that the world that we live in is the way the world has always been, right? When I was growing up, I mean, black people, black men used to look down when white men came by. They would look at their feet, and would almost shuffle, yes sir, no sir, and so on. When a white man came by, that's the world that I grew up in. Now go ahead. Because remember, the Crusades came from Europe into northeast Africa. So the African people who lived in Mauritania, who lived in Niger, the people who lived in Guinea-Bissau, who lived in Ghana, who lived in Angola, who lived in South Africa and Botswana, the Crusades didn't happen to them. They don't have any historical memory of the Crusades. This is the point that I'm making. Africa is a humongously big continent. We got African people all over this continent, but only a very small percentage of African people, had to experience the Crusades. And the people who they were fighting in the Crusades were not largely African people. They were southwestern European people who had conquered Egypt and Saudi Arabia or the Arab Peninsula and so on. And so the same people that you see today, the Muammar Gaddafi, type people, they're not the African people that you and I are a part of. They're a different people who had, migrated into that area. So the Europeans were in a struggle with them. They weren't in a struggle with African people. They were in a struggle to enslave African people. So are we near our time? Okay. Carl, I got to run. We've covered the time that I paid for it, so now we got to roll. Thank you, man. I look forward to talking to you next week. All right, folks. Hopefully we're making some kind of sense. We really got to stay on this issue. We'll talk about this more next week. Looking forward to talking to you then here at Living Now, Living Right Now.